To photograph a building without perspective distortion, you have to keep the camera horizontal, so you have to move away from the building. This lesson shows you that by taking advantage of such perspective distortion, you can produce some really intriguing photos of a building. In general, when photographing architecture, wide-angle and wide-angle zoom lenses should be used. The first example is a building in Amsterdam where the architects were clearly inspired by the container ships that travel through this part of the city. If you stand close, you have to point the camera up to get the whole building in the picture, and you get perspective distortion, also called converging verticals. The building seems to be falling away from you. If you get far enough away, you can include the whole building in the photo. The back of the camera is vertical and parallel to the building, and the building's vertical lines will not be distorted in this photo. By keeping the back of the camera vertical, you get too much foreground in the photo. If the foreground adds nothing to the composition, you can crop the picture later. Hallgrim's Church in Reykjavik was built by the architect Guðjón Samúelsson. The materials and design are inspired by Iceland's landscape and its basalt formations. Let's take advantage of the evening light. The sun doesn't set in summer and the light is magical. If there's not much light inside, the ISO value will have to be set very high in order to prevent camera shake when taking handheld photos. A VR Nikon lens will give more tolerance. The higher the ISO value, the less light is needed for photos. The disadvantage of having the ISO setting too high is that you get more noise in the photo. Sometimes it's sensible to just use a tripod and work with a lower ISO value and a slower shutter speed. For speeds slower than 1/30th of a second, it's best to use a tripod. VR Nikon lenses allow you to use slower handheld shutter speeds. VR stands for vibration reduction. One of Nikon's special lenses is the 10.5mm DX fisheye Nikon, a lens with a very wide viewing angle. The distortion of the lines in this photo produces a strong visual effect. In cases where you don't want any distortion, you can remove it afterwards with the software package Nikon Capture NX. One of the lessons on Nikon Capture NX will cover this. Smaller buildings, such as this little church in Vik in Iceland, often make rewarding photographic subjects. Here, it's important to let the surroundings play their part in the photo. Walk around the building and look for an original angle from which to photograph. And if you have to lie on the ground, then do so. The 10.5mm DX fisheye Nikon was used to take this photo. On Malacca, you can photograph the monastery of Santuario de Montación in the small town of Pereiras, at least if the abbot lets you in. These photos show the repetitive pattern of the arches. From the gallery, you can take a photo of the interior courtyard. Here's the result when the same photo is taken using the camera's fill-in flash. This photograph of the interior was taken using the unrivaled 10.5mm DX fisheye Nikon, and with the aid of the Nikon SB600 speedlight, because it's dark inside the building. Photographing architecture, a challenge for the photographer. There are many different wide-angle Nikon lenses. With the right choice of lens, a good position, and a good angle, you can take some stunning photos after a little practice.